podcast.
Welcome to Our Weird World. I'm your host, John Henson, and today looking at a singular event that really creeped out the residents of the small town of Circleville, Ohio, back in the late 70s. It's kind of a similar story to The Watcher that we talked about last month or a couple of weeks ago, really. But I don't know, it's like not as creepy, all right, because we probably know who did this. Officially we don't, but yeah, we kind of know. Anyway, you'll get what I'm talking about here in a second. Let's jump into story time.
Story time. Story time. Story time? Story time.
Beginning in 1976, the residents of Circleville, Ohio began receiving handwritten letters from an anonymous author that exposed really private details about their lives. It began with Mary Gillespie, who was accused of having an affair with the local school superintendent, Gordon Massey. The writer of the letter threatened to make the information public to Mary's children and the rest of her family if she didn't just publicly confess to it. Despite receiving another letter 8 days later, Mary chose to hide those letters rather than confess to the affair that she definitely was having. Like this wasn't just like a made up thing. Mary Gillespie really was banging the school superintendent. And look, I mean, these letters were pretty basic, right? They weren't like super creepy like the Watcher letters were. The letters were just like, hey, I know you're banging the school superintendent. You should come forward with this information or I'm going to tell your family. And it wasn't threatening language. Nothing about a tail of ham or a pork roll sandwich. You get it. Anyway, when Mary's husband, Ron, also received a letter threatening that his own life would be in danger if he did not stop the affair, he went to Mary and he's like, Mary, what's going on? I got this letter saying that you're banging Gordon. What's going on? Mary vehemently denied everything that she was being accused of, but still the letters kept coming. And they kept threatening to send the story to local papers and television stations. But again, like they didn't really confess. The couple only told Ron's sister and her husband, Paul Freshour, as well as Paul's sister. So I guess Ron's sister and her husband. So that would be Ron's brother-in-law. And then I guess who is Paul's sister in that? Not really an in-law at that point. A cousin-in-law, maybe. Is there such thing as a cousin-in-law? We're going to go with it. So Mary and Ron Gillespie, they don't take the affair public. Instead, they just tell Ron's sister and her husband, Ron's brother-in-law, Paul Freshour, and then their cousin-in-law, I guess, about the letters. And they hoped that Paul Freshour and their cousin-in-law or whoever, they hoped that they might know who was behind it. And after talking for a bit, they all came to a consensus on who they truly thought the letters were. They had Ron's brother-in-law, Paul, write his own series of anonymous letters to the person that they suspected the writer to be, demanding them to stop. And for a few weeks, the plan seemed to work because no other letters showed up in the mail. And then on August 19th, 1977, almost a year after all of this had been going on, or maybe over a year, I don't know, the Gillespies received a phone call from the author of the letters. Ron Gillespie answered the phone, and upon hearing the voice on the other end, immediately knew who it was. And he slammed the phone down, grabbed his gun, and stormed out of the house. Several minutes later, Mary was then informed that her husband's truck had slammed into a tree and he was dead. Oh, didn't think that. You didn't see that coming, did you? You probably thought that Ron went over and brat somebody. Nope, he went splat into a tree. Despite the family suspecting foul play from their anonymous attacker, no, Ron's blood alcohol level was just twice the legal limit when he died, causing police to rule the entire event as just a drunk driving accident. So following Ron Gillespie's death, which great for Mary, because now she's not even technically having an affair anymore. She just got a new boyfriend. So I guess it worked. But other residents in Circleville, Ohio, continued to receive letters claiming that Sheriff Dwight Radcliffe, who had been the one who responded to Ron Gillespie's accident, was covering something up. Ooh. By now, residents in Circleville had received over 1,000 letters with various threats and conspiracies about things going on in their lives. Mind you, Circleville, about 45 minutes to an hour south, directly south of Columbus. It's a real small town. They got a Buffalo Wild Wings, though, so that's pretty sweet. I just realized that on the old Google Maps. They got a Roosters. What is a Roosters? Oh, it's just a chicken wings restaurant. Oh, let me look at this real quick. I got to see what they're... Oh, this looks good. Looks good. Look at the menu. Look at the wings. What kind of wing flavors? What kind of wing flavors do we got going on here? Ooh, we got a sauce chart. All right, we're starting at teriyaki. Gross. Honey barbecue. Carolina Gold. Love that. Mild Parmesan garlic. Medium sweet Thai chili, cream barbecue, Nashville hot dry rub. Blah. Hot donkey. What is donkey sauce? Mango habanero, and then nuclear. Like nuclear, but nuclear. That's interesting. I'd eat here. This place looks good. All right. This looks real good. They don't have the price of their wings. That's annoying. Anyway, sorry I went on that tangent. I should cut all that out, but guess what I'm not going to do? But yeah, so like this little town got about 13,000 people in it as of right now. That doesn't, they got a racetrack here, guys. It looks like I can't tell if it's a dirt track. It looks like it's a dirt. It might be a horse racing track, if I'm being honest. But it looks like a dirt track at the Parkway or Pickaway Agriculture and Event Center. So it's probably a horse racing track. But that's pretty sweet. Anyway, so like about 13,000 people in this town. And in the 1970s, probably less than that. And yet some maniac has sent over 1,000 letters to people in this small town exposing or at least knowing very intimate details about their lives. Even more, Mary Gillespie and Gordon Massey later just went public with their relationship, even though they both claimed that it had not started until after the letters began showing. Not started after, Ron Gillespie died. No. Don't, if you're going to lie, go ahead and go all out. But instead they're like, yeah, we were having an affair, but it was before, or it was after the letters came out. Like basically we each went to each other. It's like, hey, have you seen this letter? That's crazy, right? And then we just kind of fell in love. And yeah, Mary was still married to Ron. And then it was really unfortunate when Ron died. But God is so fortunate for us because now we're in love and we're together. So just stupid, all right? Just real dumb how they did this. But with Gillespie and Massey's relationship now public, things with everything, like the letters, everything kind of just settled down until 1983, when Mary, while driving her school bus route one afternoon, saw a series of threatening signs posted on the road addressed to her. That's nuts, right? You're just going down the road and you're just seeing like these little picket signs. It's like, Mary, you suck. You're a hoe. Your husband died because of you. Boo, or something. I don't know what they said. After seeing one sign explicitly mentioning her daughter, Mary pulled the bus over, got out, and ripped the sign out of the ground. She ended up taking the sign home, where she later discovered that it had actually been a booby trap. And had she picked the sign up a certain way, a .25 caliber pistol held in place with pieces of foam would have actually fired and killed her, which is crazy. Despite clear attempts to rub off the gun's serial number, and here's where it gets a little silly, police were actually able to track down the ownership of the gun to guess who? Paul Freshour, her brother-in-law. Freshour quickly denied any involvement, saying that the gun had been stolen, of course, and actually produced an alibi that seemed to check out with police. Still, they had Freshour take a handwriting test, which actually turned out to be similar enough to the threatening letters to get them to charge him with attempted murder. At Freshour's trial, a handwriting expert asserted their belief that Freshour had written the letters. Mary Gillespie and Freshour's own wife actually testified against him. So, maybe he's kind of a dick after all. When your own wife testifies against you, the one who's supposed to be your ride or die, and till death do us, and she's like, it was probably him. I never saw him write it, but it really does seem like it was him. Even more, Freshour's boss testified that Freshour had taken the day off on the day that the booby-trapped sign was found. And despite having no actual physical or forensic proof that Freshour was the author of the letters, the fact that his gun was part of that booby trap and attempted murder was enough to have him convicted and sentenced to 7 to 24 years in prison. But that's not the end of the story, all right? While in prison, Freshour began receiving anonymous letters from the Circleville writer claiming that they were going to do everything they could to keep him in prison forever. What a twist. Oh, this story has everything. Other residents in Circleville also started receiving letters again. Each one was postmarked from Columbus. Meanwhile, Freshour, he was in prison in Lima, nearly 100 miles away. It's either Lima or Lima. Ohio pronounces their names weird, right? There's a Versailles in Ohio, but they say Versailles because it's Ohio. They're idiots. Prison officials, most of them, prison officials were still convinced that Freshour was the author of these letters and actually placed him in solitary confinement to prevent him from secretly sending off mail, because obviously that's what he was doing. But and again, it's not completely unreasonable to think that. We've seen stories where this has happened before, like Philip Morris, for example, where he was disguising himself or pretending to be his own doctor and getting him released and, fake diagnosed with AIDS and all of that. So it's not completely implausible. And so that's what prison officials thought. So they put him in solitary confinement. However, despite Freshour being in solitary confinement, the letters continued coming in. And when Freshour came up for parole in 1990, even the parole board still believed that he was the original author and was still writing letters from prison and denied his release. And here's the thing. A few days after his parole hearing, Freshour received a letter from the Circleville writer saying, "When are you going to believe you aren't going to get out of there? I told you 2 years ago. When we set them up, they stay set up. Don't you listen?" That's weird. Who are you, bro? That's okay. 2 years later, police chief James Machine, received an anonymous letter of his own, though styled a little bit differently than the now thousands of letters that had been circulating around Circleville. This letter claimed that the original Circleville letter writer had been Mary Gillespie the entire time. This letter also claimed that Ron Gillespie's killer, even though everyone thought that he just died in a drunk driving accident, but Ron Gillespie's killer had also been responsible for the death of a teacher named Vicky Kolk 3 years prior, whose case had yet to be solved. Even more, it claimed that Mary had set up the booby trap herself that had gotten Freshour convicted, and had also set up even more traps around the school that she was the school bus driver for. Police investigated every school in the district, but did not find any other booby traps. Obviously, because Mary went in and took them all down. Duh. In 1994, Freshour finally received his parole, and no one still really had any idea who the letter writer was. Most people still believed it was Freshour, but honestly, guys, there's so much evidence. Unless this dude is just truly mentally crazy, and maybe he had an accomplice, or there's a lot of copycats. I don't know. But just crazy how all of these letters continued to show up even while the dude was in solitary confinement. Anyway, so in 1994, he gets on parole. After the television show Unsolved Mysteries aired an episode about the Circleville Letters, the producers of the show received a postcard that said, "Forget Circleville, Ohio. Do nothing to hurt Sheriff Radcliffe. If you come to Ohio, you El Sickos will pay." Why? Why are you talking like that? That's a dumb person. You El Sickos will pay. That's so stupid. Like, at least with the Watcher letters, like they kept it classy spooky. This guy's just a dork. And it really seems like it's just like some teenagers who probably are copycatting and they just want to sound cool, I guess. I don't know. But after the letter to the producers of Unsolved Mysteries, the letters stopped. Fresh Hour continued to maintain his innocence, even going so far as to write a 127-page research paper on the entire event. Private investigator Martin Yant, who worked on the case while everything was going on, actually came to believe that there were at least 3 different authors of the Circleville Letters, none of which were Paul Freshour. So Martin Yant believed that it was either Gordon Massey's son, who was trying to stop his father from having an affair with Mary Gillespie, plausible. A guy named David Longberry, who was one of Mary Gillespie's co-workers who had a crush on her and was jealous that she was banging, Gordon Massey and not him. Longberry later raped a young girl and went on the run before hanging himself behind a gas station. So, could have been. They also thought it could have been Paul Freshour's ex-wife, Karen, who was angry towards Paul because he was on track to receive everything in the divorce. Karen, who did testify against Paul in the trial, interesting enough, a later eyewitness claimed to have actually seen Karen's new boyfriend in an El Camino stopped on the road on the same day near where the booby trap sign had been found. Coincidence? Who knows? But to this day, no one has any idea who the author of the Circleville Letters actually was.
All done.
All right, there you go. The Circleville Letters in the books. Let us recap and see what we learned today.
What did we learn?
Number 1, starting in 1976, residents in Circleville House, probably like 11,000 people town at that point, received anonymous letters with like crazy details about their private lives that no one knew. The biggest one was Mary Gillespie, who was accused of having an affair with school superintendent Gordon Massey, which was definitely happening. Number 2, her husband got a call from the letter writer, and he was apparently drunk already, and then he knew who it was. And so he went out to go get justice and instead crashed into a tree and died. Not a lot of people, I feel like people aren't talking enough about that detail, about how dude straight up died, how this entire bit that someone was doing ended up with someone dying. So like they could theoretically be on the hook for murder. And I mean, I guess Paul Freshour was like they, got him convicted on those counts. But either way, number 3, Paul Freshour was accused, found guilty, served prison time for being the letter writer, despite there being zero evidence of it, except that his gun was booby trapped to a sign that Mary Gillespie found, even though he said the gun was stolen. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, maybe he's lying. Who knows? No one knows. No one knows. And then we have this other private investigator who thinks it could have been 3 other people who did it. We don't know. And that's what's crazy about this story is we don't know. And no one seems to want to come forward because maybe the guy who did it is actually dead already. Or I don't know. but a big mystery in a small town.
What did we learn?
Also, just like the concept of writing an anonymous letter and sending it. So I've always wanted to do that, but I feel like I would get caught, you know? Like at the very least, like I feel like at least now people could fingerprint and see whose fingerprints were on the letter. Cause like beyond that, right? Like I could probably wear gloves and, you know, get the piece of paper out. I could maybe like write the address or something with my right hand. I could type up the letter. Duh. That's obvious. But then, you know, or maybe get stickers for the envelope label. Who knows? So like it's really anonymous. And then I could drive to a completely different city, you know, maybe drive over to Raleigh, mail them off there so that it then goes, so it's not coming from my specific area, right? But then I feel like people would, I don't know. But it would just be fun to write an anonymous letter to someone I don't like and just tell them how much I don't like them. You know, just be like, hey, eat a bag of dicks. You suck. I hate you. And then that's it. But I feel like they would still know it was me because I'm the only person they know who would probably do something like that. Anyway, I don't know. Just interesting. Crazy. Like, also, I don't understand because I'm sure the letters still exist. I'm sure they could do forensic DNA testing on them now. I don't know why they haven't. I guess no one cares anymore is the moral to that story. Anywho, next week on the show, we are going back to some real government projects. It'll be part 3, the third time we've done that subject, and it is going to be 4 more stories of just the most insane things that the United States government has ever done. Here's the thing, guys. I think we're kind of the bad guys. Like, for all of the good things that America does, I think we're kind of like the world's mentally unhinged, like scary parent. Like some days we're really nice and generous. You know, we're giving a lot of aid. We're fun. You know, we're putting on the best events, or we're making the best movies, or pumping out the best musical acts or whatever. And then other times we're bombing you and putting sanctions on you and starving your people and overthrowing your government. And it's like that, right? So we're going to look next week at the Bath riots, Project Orion, the Gateway process, which is nuts, and Ruhina the cow, a cow that got involved in the United States nonsense. It's going to be silly and also horrifying what we know that this country has done. Can't imagine the stuff that hasn't been declassified yet. Anyway, thank you for listening. Keep telling all your friends and keep it weird.
This is a podcast